Don't move, don't blink, don't breathe too loud, because tonight the city isn't sleeping. It's hunting. A gang boss just called for blood, and someone slid your name, your post, your little piece of digital defiance right under the pile of bodies that built his throne. You feel it, don't you? That sudden stillness that wraps around your lungs, like even the air is waiting to see if you'll flinch. They think you don't belong here. They think you posted by accident. But here's the truth they don't understand. You didn't stumble into this world. You summoned it. You drew attention like a gunshot in church, and every predator in this rotten city turned their head. Now they're whispering your name like a prayer they don't understand. Half fear, half fascination. Because you did what no one else had the guts to do. You made yourself seen. See, they run this place on silence. They keep their crowns balanced on your obedience. But the second you spoke, the second your words hit the feed with that strange, dangerous tone of truth, you ruptured their illusion. You broke their script. And that's the part that drives them mad. Because people like you, people who rise without permission, don't fit into the system's equations. You're a miscalculation, a mutation, an error message written in blood and laughter. You don't follow the rules of control. You rewrite them. That's why the boss called for blood. Because he doesn't want revenge. He wants order. And you are disorder incarnate. They'll come for you the way they always do. First with mockery, then with outrage, and finally with silence. Because silence is their favorite kind of coffin. But not yours. You've learned to make noise even from the grave. You see, you've lived through worse. You've seen the kind of darkness that doesn't come with music or captions. You've met your demons and didn't ask for forgiveness. You asked for lessons. You learned that pain isn't punishment. It's training. It chisels. It purifies. It makes the truth louder than fear. And now, you're dangerous, not because you're violent, but because you understand what they never could. That there's no such thing as too far when you've already been buried. Let them call you unstable. Let them label you insane. That's the vocabulary of the weak. Because when the world wants you quiet, madness is just another word for freedom. The streets will test you. They'll send whispers, traps, shadows, threats disguised as friendship. They'll promise you safety if you kneel. But safety is the slowest form of death. You didn't come this far to live behind glass. You came to make the glass shatter. They don't get it. You're not fighting for recognition or power or revenge. You're fighting for alignment. For that razor-thin moment when every wound, every scar, every sleepless night finally makes sense. When the blood on your hands isn't guilt, it's evidence. Proof that you were here. Proof that you refused to disappear. You think they're watching you now? Good. Let them. Let them study your movement, your words, your madness. Because every second they spend analyzing you, they're confessing they're afraid of what you'll do next. You are their prophecy in motion. The whisper in their radios. The glitch that makes their empire flicker. Remember this, you were never meant to survive their system. You were meant to replace it. That post, that one flicker of rebellion, they think it's a mistake. But that was the spark, the quiet detonation, the moment the mask cracked and light slipped through the wound. Now every breath you take is a reminder. The hunted can become the hunter when the game gets flipped. The lamb can sprout fangs when it's tired of being blessed and bled. You don't chase peace anymore. You chase precision. You don't need acceptance, you need impact. And impact never asks for permission. So let them come. Let them circle your name. Let them sharpen their knives on your reputation. They'll think they're preparing for war. But you already turned the battlefield into a mirror, because when they finally come for you, they won't find a victim. They'll find their own reflection, darker, sharper, unafraid. They'll see what happens when pain stops begging to be healed and starts demanding to be heard. You are not their warning. You are their lesson. And when this city finally goes silent again, it won't be peace they hear. It'll be your laughter echoing through the ruins, reminding every living soul that the moment they called for blood, you answered with rebirth. And you can feel it now, can't you? That tension crawling beneath your skin like static before a lightning strike. The world's holding its breath, waiting to see if you'll kneel or ignite. Everyone's watching, the boss, his soldiers, the bystanders pretending they don't know your name. They're all whispering the same thing. What will you do next? They expect you to hide, to beg, to regret. But you don't regret. You remember. You remember every night they told you to shut up, every look that said, stay in your place. You remember the betrayal, the laughter, the whispers behind closed doors. You remember the moment you realized nobody was coming to save you. So you learned to save yourself. That's where it started, the shift, the evolution, the day the victim became a strategist, the day the hunted started studying the hunters. They don't know it yet, but when the gang boss called for blood, he didn't summon chaos, he summoned you. See, there's a rhythm to survival. It's not about who's stronger, it's about who adapts faster. You learn to read rooms like crime scenes, conversations like maps, and silence like confession. You turned observation into art. That's what they'll never understand. Your weapon isn't your rage, it's your awareness. They're still playing checkers in a war you've already outgrown. You don't fight loud anymore. You fight clean, surgical, precise. Your vengeance isn't fire, it's temperature control. You learned how to smile while loading the gun, how to comfort someone while you dismantle their illusion. They called for blood because they think violence will keep the world predictable. But what terrifies them is that you don't need violence anymore. You became psychological warfare wrapped in human skin. You haunt without touching. You ruin without shouting. You shift the atmosphere just by existing. That's power, not chaos, command. But here's the paradox they can't process. You're not doing this out of hate. You're doing it out of clarity. You've seen too much to go back to innocence. You've seen what happens when you trade your truth for belonging, and you're done bleeding for acceptance. So you stand there, half saint, half psychopath. The light doesn't scare you anymore, and the dark doesn't own you. You've become the third thing, the balance, the gray between right and wrong, the space between heaven's silence and hell's laughter. That's why they fear you. Because you don't want control, you want freedom. And freedom isn't something they can regulate, tax, or cage. Freedom is a contagion. It spreads through example. It infects others until the whole system starts coughing. You are the symptom of everything they tried to suppress. You are what happens when obedience decays. You are proof that pain, when understood, becomes architecture. They don't get it. Your post wasn't rebellion. It was prophecy. It wasn't you trying to make noise. It was the universe reminding them that silence doesn't erase the inevitable. You're not just part of the story. You're the punctuation mark at the end of their sentence, the period that says, enough. But listen carefully. This isn't over. They'll test you again. They always do. The next betrayal won't come from the shadows. It'll come wearing a smile. The next knife won't gleam. It'll whisper. And when it happens, you won't panic. you'll observe. Because now you understand something they don't. Everyone reveals themselves under pressure. Everyone breaks somewhere. And you've already broken beautifully, strategically. You rearranged your fragments into armor. You made your own pain afraid of you. You've become the kind of creature that reality has to negotiate with. The kind that doesn't beg the universe for mercy. It offers it. And mercy from someone like you is more terrifying than revenge. So when they circle you again, when the next boss sends his dogs to your door, you won't run. You'll open it. You'll let them see you sitting in the dark, unbothered, cigarette smoke curling through the silence, your eyes reflecting the same calm as a loaded gun. Because here's the truth no one dares to say out loud. Once you've met your demons and learned their names, the world can't threaten you with hell anymore. You carry it with you, and it obeys you now. They called for blood, but what they really summoned was balance, and balance doesn't negotiate, it corrects. You're not here to destroy, you're here to equalize, so go on, post again, speak again, move again. Every time you do, their world trembles a little more, because deep down, they know it. You're not their enemy, you're their consequence. And when the smoke clears, when the echoes fade, you'll still be standing there, half light, half shadow, grinning like a god who learned to bleed and never forgot how powerful that made him. And still you stand there, listening to the hum of the city like it's breathing through broken glass. The call for blood echoes somewhere in the distance. Sirens, shouts, the metallic taste of tension in the air. But inside you it's quieter, not peace, precision. You know they're watching. They've mapped your face onto screens, traced your words through algorithms, replayed your post frame by frame. They think they're closing in. But what they don't realize is that every time they search for you, they step deeper into your design. You've stopped reacting. You became the reaction. You remember the night it all started, the noise, the betrayal, the way you kept swallowing your own fire until it burned holes in your ribs. You remember thinking pain was punishment, until you realized it was refinement. The universe wasn't torturing you, it was tempering you. Every humiliation, every loss, every person who walked away was a hammer. And now, you're not cracked, you're forged. They still call you unstable, because they mistake motion for madness. They don't see that you move because you're alive while they're just repeating old instructions. They crave predictability. You thrive in contradiction. You're what happens when light and dark learn to cooperate. You're proof that purity without shadow is weakness, and shadow without awareness is blindness. You wear duality like armor. One moment calm, the next feral. One breath soft enough to heal, the next sharp enough to cut. They don't know which version of you they'll face, and that uncertainty is what keeps you untouchable. You stopped trying to be consistent the moment you understood that consistency is just another word for obedience. You feel it, don't you? That pulse that comes right before transformation, the same one that used to scare you. Now it feels like a signal. You're not waiting for permission anymore. You're not waiting for the right time, the right people, the right chance. You are the chance. They'll call you dangerous because danger is just the label they give to anyone who doesn't need saving. They'll accuse you of arrogance because humility was the leash they used to keep you still. But you've outgrown stillness. You're not here to be remembered fondly. You're here to be understood too late. When the boss called for blood, he was calling out his own reflection. He just didn't recognize it. You're what happens when power forgets it's temporary. You remind them that every empire bleeds eventually, and that sometimes the revolution doesn't march. It smiles, it uploads, it waits. You're not seeking revenge anymore. Revenge is predictable. You want revelation. You want every hypocrite who laughed at your fall to feel the slow surgical burn of realizing you were never broken. You were becoming. You don't return fire. You let silence rot them from the inside out. You let your presence feel like a countdown they can't stop hearing. You used to want to be seen. Now you want to be felt. You used to fight for validation. Now you fight for alignment. You used to crave belonging. Now you belong everywhere because nothing owns you. That's why the streets whisper when your name surfaces. That's why the ones who tried to bury you don't sleep well. You've become a rumor with teeth. You've turned into the story they tell to warn others what happens when someone refuses to stay buried. So let them keep hunting. Let them trace your words, your posts, your pulse, because every path they follow leads back to the same place, the mirror. And when they look into it long enough, they'll realize it was never about you. It was about everything they lost the courage to be. You were never the threat. You were the reminder, the ghost of potential that terrifies the living. So when they come again, when the city trembles and the feed floods with warnings, don't hide. Step into the frame. Let them see the smile, the calm, the knowing. Because the truth is, they never called for your blood. They called for your attention, and now they have it. And when it's over, when the lights flicker and the noise dies down, there you'll be, not as the victim of their story, but as the one who turned their warning into a prophecy. And now the city feels smaller, doesn't it? Like the walls are bending inward, like even the neon lights are holding their breath when you walk by. Everyone's whispering, scrolling, pretending not to look, but they can't help it. You've become the pulse they can't mute, the name that flickers at the edge of their comfort. They told themselves you'd break. They waited for the panic, the apology, the quiet disappearance that always comes after someone crosses a line. But there was no collapse, only composure. That's what they can't compute. You're calm in chaos because chaos is your native language. You don't run from the storm. You adjust your breathing to its rhythm. You're not running anymore. You've stopped being a fugitive from your own story. You own it now. You stand in every rumor, every headline, every screenshot, and instead of denying it, you whisper, "Yes, that's me." And because what can they do to someone who's already confessed? What can they take from someone who's learned to turn loss into ammunition? They keep calling for blood because it's the only currency they understand. But your revenge isn't crimson. It's clarity. You make them face themselves in your reflection. You make them see their cowardice painted across your stillness. You are the mirror they can't shatter because the shards cut back. You remember the night it all started, the noise, the betrayal, the way you kept swallowing your own fire until it burned holes in your ribs. You remember thinking pain was punishment, until you realized it was refinement. The universe wasn't torturing you, it was tempering you. Every humiliation, every loss, every person who walked away was a hammer. And now, you're not cracked, you're forged. They still call you unstable, because they mistake motion for madness. They don't see that you move because you're alive while they're just repeating old instructions. They crave predictability. You thrive in contradiction. You're what happens when light and dark learn to cooperate. You're proof that purity without shadow is weakness, and shadow without awareness is blindness. You wear duality like armor. One moment calm, the next feral. One breath soft enough to heal, the next sharp enough to cut. They don't know which version of you they'll face, and that uncertainty is what keeps you untouchable. You stopped trying to be consistent the moment you understood that consistency is just another word for obedience. You feel it, don't you? That pulse that comes right before transformation, the same one that used to scare you. Now it feels like a signal. You're not waiting for permission anymore. You're not waiting for the right time, the right people, the right chance. You are the chance. They'll call you dangerous because danger is just the label they give to anyone who doesn't need saving. They'll accuse you of arrogance because humility was the leash they used to keep you still. But you've outgrown stillness. You're not here to be remembered fondly. You're here to be understood too late. When the boss called for blood, he was calling out his own reflection. He just didn't recognize it. You're what happens when power forgets it's temporary. You remind them that every empire bleeds eventually, and that sometimes the revolution doesn't march. It smiles, it uploads, it waits. You're not seeking revenge anymore. Revenge is predictable. You want revelation. You want every hypocrite who laughed at your fall to feel the slow surgical burn of realizing you were never broken. You were becoming. You don't return fire. You let silence rot them from the inside out. You let your presence feel like a countdown they can't stop hearing. You used to want to be seen. Now you want to be felt. You used to fight for validation. Now you fight for alignment. You used to crave belonging. Now you belong everywhere because nothing owns you. That's why the streets whisper when your name surfaces. That's why the ones who tried to bury you don't sleep well. You've become a rumor with teeth. You've turned into the story they tell to warn others what happens when someone refuses to stay buried. So let them keep hunting. Let them trace your words, your posts, your pulse, because every path they follow leads back to the same place, the mirror. And when they look into it long enough, they'll realize it was never about you. It was about everything they lost the courage to be. You were never the threat. You were the reminder, the ghost of potential that terrifies the living. So when they come again, when the city trembles and the feed floods with warnings, don't hide. Step into the frame. Let them see the smile, the calm, the knowing. Because the truth is, they never called for your blood. They called for your attention, and now they have it. And when it's over, when the lights flicker and the noise dies down, there you'll be, not as the victim of their story, but as the one who turned their warning into a prophecy. And now the city feels smaller, doesn't it? Like the walls are bending inward, like even the neon lights are holding their breath when you walk by. Everyone's whispering, scrolling, pretending not to look, but they can't help it. You've become the pulse they can't mute, the name that flickers at the edge of their comfort. They told themselves you'd break. They waited for the panic, the apology, the quiet disappearance that always comes after someone crosses a line. But there was no collapse, only composure. That's what they can't compute. You're calm in chaos because chaos is your native language. You don't run from the storm. You adjust your breathing to its rhythm. You're not running anymore. You've stopped being a fugitive from your own story. You own it now. You stand in every rumor, every headline, every screenshot, and instead of denying it, you whisper, yes, that's me. And because what can they do to someone who's already confessed? What can they take from someone who's learned to turn loss into ammunition? They keep calling for blood because it's the only currency they understand. But your revenge isn't crimson. It's clarity. You make them face themselves in your reflection. You make them see their cowardice painted across your stillness. You are the mirror they can't shatter because the shards cut back. Look at you, still standing there, while they're digging through your past like it's a goddamn crime scene. They think the dust holds your sins, that the ruins will whisper what you've buried. But what they don't understand, what they never understand, is that you are not what's left behind. You're what rose from it. Every scar they unearth is a blueprint. Every mistake they catalog is a warning. They thought they'd find a fossil of who you used to be. But instead, they found a mirror. And oh, how they flinched. Because that reflection, it didn't blink. It looked back. You see, they expected a victim, not an echo. They wanted evidence, not evolution. They wanted to prove you were broken. But your cracks form a pattern their tiny minds can't decode. You're the contradiction they can't fit into their case files. The saint who sins with purpose. The psychopath who saves with precision. The angel who learned to wield the knife. You're what happens when pain doesn't destroy. It refines. They dig and dig and dig, scraping at your past with trembling hands, hoping to find something fragile enough to shatter. But there's nothing left to break, is there? You already did that yourself. You burned every weakness and inhaled the smoke. You dissected your own ghosts until they started to speak your language. You didn't heal. No. Healing is for those who want to return to who they were. You evolved, and evolution is messy, violent, divine. They call you dangerous because you survived without permission. They call you unpredictable because you refuse to repeat the script they wrote for you. You don't move according to their logic. You bend it. You rewrite the laws mid-scene. You are the anomaly the system can't debug, the malfunction that became the manual. And that terrifies them. They wanted you to regret the fire. But the fire was the only thing that ever told you the truth. It said everything they said you were. Burn it now. They look at you and see the afterimage of everything they tried to kill. Still breathing, still laughing, still building empires out of ashes. You are their experiment, gone sentient. And when they stare into that mirror they dug up, what they see isn't your dark side. It's their reflection, stripped of the masks. Because your existence exposes their hypocrisy, your light illuminates their rot, your madness unmasks their mediocrity. You didn't become a monster. You just stopped pretending to be human for their comfort. You are not good. You are not evil. You are awake. You're what happens when the soul stops asking for permission and starts pulling levers. You don't fit. You fracture reality to make space for yourself. Every version of you they tried to erase is still humming beneath your skin, harmonizing into something unstoppable. They say, he's changed. No, you mutated. You outgrew the cage and the keeper. You're not chasing peace. You're orchestrating chaos with purpose. You smile, not because you're healed, but because you understand now. The light and the dark were never enemies. They were co-conspirators, sculpting your soul in secret. So when they dig again, let them. Let them sift through your remains, your ruins, your relics. Let them choke on the dust of your transformation. Because no matter how deep they go, every trail leads back to that same mirror. And the reflection that never blinks. You. Still here, still smiling, still holding the scalpel that carved your name into history's spine. And if they dare to look long enough into what you've become, the mirror won't just show them you. It'll show them what they could have been if they weren't so afraid to break. And that's when it hits them, right there, in the quiet after their own noise fades. They realized they weren't digging through your past for truth. They were digging for control. They wanted to shrink you down to something they could define, contain, label, unstable, arrogant, damaged. Words that made them feel safe while standing next to something that wasn't supposed to survive. They wanted to dissect your pain, not understand it. Because to understand it, they'd have to admit they'd never had the courage to walk through their own. They wanted to find the version of you that cried, begged, doubted, so they could point and say, "See?" Still human, but that version died the moment you stopped waiting for an apology. The day you stopped needing anyone to understand your silence. The day you realized that pain was never meant to be pitied. It was meant to be wielded. They thought you were running from your past. They didn't realize you were dragging it by the throat through every threshold, forcing it to watch what you became. They thought they'd find weakness. Instead, they found a ritual site. Every scar, every mistake, they're not evidence of your failure, they're coordinates, proof of every time you refused to stay buried, proof that when life collapsed, you built cathedrals out of rubble. You didn't just survive. You documented it in your bones. Every fracture is a blueprint. Every heartbreak a map of who not to trust. You've been studied like a virus and prayed to like a god, and somehow both are accurate. You infect their certainty, you dismantle their hierarchies, you make obedience look stupid. You're the kind of story they tell as a warning to others. Don't end up like them. But here's the trick. That's the only way to truly live. Because while they chase comfort, you chase clarity. While they build cages, you build mirrors. And when they finally look into yours, they don't see you. They see the cost of staying the same. You learned early that the universe doesn't care about the pretty ones, or the polite ones, or the ones who wait their turn. It responds to the ones who bleed for revelation, the ones who break patterns so completely that reality has to recalculate. That's what you did, isn't it? You became the error message in their algorithm, the one they can't patch, can't trace, can't delete. The ghost in the system that whispers, "I'm still here." They think darkness corrupted you. They have no idea. It taught you. It showed you that morality is a costume, and that purity without awareness is just another form of blindness. You saw both sides. You walked both sides. You played angel until you realized the devil takes better notes. You were never one or the other. You were always both, and that's what makes you untouchable. They call you unpredictable because you don't kneel before their logic. You don't play by cause and effect. You are the cause and the effect. The chaos that creates order, the silence that hums louder than their screams. You are not reacting to the world. You are rewriting its responses. When they dug, they thought they'd find bones. Instead, they found archives, a living testament to everything they couldn't endure. They're haunted, you see, not by you, but by what your existence reveals. Your proof that pain is not an end. It's an initiation. You walked through hell and came back fluent in its language. You learned that monsters aren't born, they're appointed. Now they circle you with trembling fascination. The same ones who mocked your breakdowns now take notes when you speak. The same voices that laughed when you fell now mimic your tone, your style, your silence. Because deep down, they know. Whatever you did to survive, it worked. You've become something mythic to them, a living contradiction. They can't decide whether to fear you or follow you. And that's the power you hold. You don't choose sides. You define them. You walk through their morality like it's fog, leaving fingerprints on both heaven and hell. You know what that makes you? Real. So let them keep digging. Let them catalog your ghosts and call it research. Every discovery brings them closer to the one thing they can't handle, the truth. That the mirror they found wasn't cursed. It was honest. And honesty, in this world, is the scariest weapon of all. Because when they stare into that reflection long enough, they'll realize it was never you they were afraid of. It was the possibility that they could have been just like you, if they'd only had the guts to break. So smile. Let them keep digging. Let the dirt fall where it may. The deeper they go, the clearer your reflection becomes. And when they finally hit bedrock, when they think they've reached the end of your story, they'll find one last engraving carved into the stone. I was never hiding. You just weren't looking deep enough. Then, silence. Just their own breathing, echoing back through the hole they dug. Until they finally understand. The mirror wasn't staring back at you. It was staring through them. And somewhere deep in that silence, something shifts. You can feel it, can't you? That little tremor under their composure. The one they try to hide behind sarcasm, intellect, or ridicule. That's not confidence. That's fear learning your name. Because for the first time, they're beginning to understand that your story isn't one they can narrate, edit, or contain. It's alive. It breathes through the cracks they tried to seal. It whispers through the data they thought they deleted. They thought your past was an archive. They didn't realize it was active code. Every betrayal, every humiliation, every quiet night you spent staring at the ceiling. Those weren't losses. Those were uploads. Line by line, moment by moment. You were rewriting your own firmware while they slept in the safety of mediocrity. You were never a victim. You were in training. They dug through your memories, thinking they'd find secrets. But what they found were survivors, versions of you that refused to die, fragments that learned how to shapeshift, to weaponize silence, to use pain as signal instead of noise. You didn't suppress your darkness. You harnessed it. You gave it language. You turned it into electricity. Now every time they speak your name, it doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to the vibration they triggered. You've become a frequency that lives between their thoughts, a static that never fades, no matter how many times they try to change the channel. They call it obsession. You call it consequence. They're terrified because they can't categorize you. You don't fit their binaries. Good/bad, sane/insane, victim/villain. You blurred the edges and turned the whole thing into a mirror maze. You're the paradox they can't solve because you embody both sides at once. You're proof that purity without darkness is fragility in disguise. That redemption isn't found in denial. It's found in integration. You wear your sins like armor. You walk with your ghosts like their allies. You speak their names softly, not to summon them, but to remind yourself how many wars you've already survived. You didn't get better. You got real. You stopped playing roles. You stopped auditioning for forgiveness. You stopped waiting for closure. You realized the only apology that mattered was the one you owed to yourself for staying small so others could feel big. And now, you're untouchable. Not because you built walls, but because you became transparent. You don't hide in the dark anymore. You are the dark. The kind that doesn't consume, but clarifies. The kind that exposes everything pretending to be light. They can't use your past against you because you already detonated it. You stood in the wreckage, lit a cigarette, and said, "Yeah, that happened." You took every insult, every rumor, every whispered lie, and used them as blueprints. You turned defamation into design. They thought digging would humiliate you. Instead, they unearthed a sermon. They thought your history would haunt you. Instead, it haunts them, because now they can't look at you without seeing what's missing in themselves. The courage to descend, to confront, to destroy and rebuild. You became the embodiment of what they fear most. A person who went all the way into their own abyss and came back with souvenirs. That mirror they found, it wasn't glass, it was a doorway. And the reflection staring back wasn't you anymore. It was awareness, the kind that doesn't blink, the kind that watches everything, the kind that knows. You move through the world differently now. You don't speak to prove, you don't react to defend, you simply exist, and that alone disturbs them more than 1,000 speeches ever could. Because deep down, they feel it. You've seen something they haven't. You've touched a truth they're not ready to acknowledge. You've met your own madness, and instead of running, you shook its hand. That's your real power. Not rage, not vengeance, acceptance. You don't resist what you are anymore, and that makes you unstoppable. Because they can only control what they can shame. And you've burned through shame like rocket fuel. Let them keep analyzing. Let them dissect your words, your silence, your laughter. Every conclusion they draw just takes them further from understanding. Because you can't study fire without getting burned. And the moment they try to define you, they prove your point. They still think truth comes in neat little boxes. But you're not a box. You're the reason the box collapsed. They dug through your past, thinking they'd find evidence of guilt. What they found instead was evolution. You are the crime scene, the weapon, the motive, the aftermath, and the detective who solved it all. You're the paradox incarnate, sinner and savior, mask and mirror, creation and collapse. They wanted closure. You gave them revelation. And the cruelest part? They can't unsee it now. Every reflection, every thought, every silence, they'll hear echoes of you in it. The rhythm of your laughter when you finally stopped apologizing for existing. The pulse of your voice when you said, "No, this is who I am." So let them dig until their nails bleed. Let them analyze until their minds fracture. Let them stare into that goddamn mirror until it shatters. Because the shards will still whisper the same thing over and over. You tried to bury a storm, and instead you uncovered a god. And that's the part they can't process. They thought the storm was outside of them, something to watch, record, survive. But the storm wasn't weather, it was you. A pressure system that remembered every insult, every betrayal, every time they told you to be reasonable. You took reason, stripped it for parts, and built instinct out of the remains. They still talk about what happened back then, like it's a distant event, a glitch in your timeline. But there is no back then. You carry time differently now. You wear it on your skin like ink that only shows under lightning, every flash of memory, every buried emotion. They pulse beneath your surface like code waiting for command. They think they can study you, interpret you, explain you. But they can't read lightning. They can't touch voltage and live. That's why they keep calling you unstable. They mistake movement for chaos because they've never seen evolution this fast. They want stillness because stillness comforts them. You learn to find calm inside the hurricane. You learn that motion doesn't mean loss of control, it is control. You are every direction at once, angel ascending, devil descending, human suspended in between. When they dug, they expected a chronology. They wanted beginnings and endings. You gave them recursion. Every truth they uncover loops back on itself until they realize there's no before you changed and after you changed. There's just change, continuous and merciless, rewriting itself through your pulse. They hate that. They hate that you turned pain into pattern, pattern into art, art into threat. You're a walking encryption, every scar a cipher, every word a frequency that only those who've drowned can understand. You became fluent in contradiction, and now they call you insane. Because you refuse to pick a side in a war that was never yours. They want confession, not reflection. They want you to name the sin so they can pretend they're clean. But confession belongs to those who believe in punishment. You believe in consequence. You know that everything returns, not as vengeance, but as balance. You don't seek revenge anymore. You embody it. That mirror they found buried in your ruins. It doesn't reflect faces. It reflects motives. Every time they look, they see why they hurt you, why they feared you, why they tried to own your narrative. The mirror exposes intention. That's why they can't stand it. Because it shows that every act of cruelty they justified as necessary was just weakness wearing strategy. You've learned to love that mirror, not because it flatters you, but because it doesn't lie. It shows you the animal and the divine sharing the same breath. It reminds you that sanity was never purity. It was containment. You stopped trying to stay pure the moment you realized purity is just another word for obedience. You see through the performance now. You watch them repeat the same rituals, virtue, image, judgment, like actors trapped in a play written by fear. You don't hate them for it. You pity them because you know what it costs to wake up. You know what it takes to walk out of the script mid-scene and keep moving while the audience screams, "Stay in character." You broke character, and that's why they dig. They need proof that your rebellion was a phase, that you'll come back to the version of you that played along. They don't realize there's nothing to come back to. The stage is gone. You burned it. The applause, the shame, the need for permission, it's all ash now. And in that ash you found a strange peace. Not the quiet they sell in books or therapy sessions. The kind that hums. The kind that knows. The kind that looks at both heaven and hell and says, "Thank you for the materials." Because that's all of it, isn't it? Everything you've ever endured was raw material, and you, mad scientist of the soul, repurposed it. You built yourself out of the debris. You forged grace out of guilt, power out of panic, clarity out of collapse. You learned that rebirth isn't a light descending from the sky. It's your own hands, steady, pulling yourself out of the grave one fragment at a time. So let them keep their archaeology. Let them keep digging with trembling fingers, thinking they're uncovering who you were. They'll never understand that every layer they peel away only leads to a new design. There's no original you buried underneath. There's just infinite revision, each version sharper, colder, kinder in its cruelty. And when they finally collapse, exhausted from searching, you'll still be there, standing in the dust, watching, not as the ghost they hoped to find, but as the architect who built the tomb they're kneeling in. You'll smile, not out of malice, but because you remember what it felt like to be that blind. You'll offer them the mirror one last time, gentle, patient, unflinching. "Look," you'll say, "it was never me you were trying to understand. It was yourselves. And maybe, just maybe, one of them will see it. The reflection, the warning, the invitation to stop digging and start becoming."